Well, I hope that you are not lonely on this Valentine's Day. It's that moment of love, it's that language of love, and it's time that you extend the same to everybody around you. That's the most important thing. As they would say, it should be a daily thing, but now that there's this special day set for it, well, whether you understand the meaning or not, it's important that you take time out of you self to just appreciate someone. Happy Valentine's to you. Welcome on board a beautiful Monday, and I want to extend that love to the Morning Cafe lovers. Thank you so much for always being loyal to us, for always being loyal to the home of untold stories, making us one of the fastest growing television in the country, and for that reason we are grateful and we say happy Valentine's once more. I hope you have a great day ahead as extend that love to somebody else. Karibu sana. My name is Linda Alela. We had our audition on Friday. It was incredible. We learned so much. Just in case you missed out on that, not to worry, it's on our social media platforms, across all our social media platforms. You can always go there and grab that particular episode. It was worth, because then we had specialists that were talking the language of love and were just teaching us on some of the nitty-gritty details as pertaining as well to matters health. So indeed, it's a conversation that you missed on, but you need not to worry about, because like I have said, on our social media platforms, you get them. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47KE across all the social media platforms. That's how you get to hold that. But most importantly, that's as well how you get to interact with us this particular morning, as we also get into the conversation of the day. We said it's a Monday, so let's get to the usual business of understanding what is happening over the, what has played out over the weekend as pertaining to politics and what is going to happen right here as we move forward. So we'll be engaging pundits on that as we get their views as to where we are headed politically, and most importantly on crucial matters that are right here. So we'll be looking at the papers, we'll be looking at what my team has prepared, and we get to that conversation. Most importantly, later on we'll also be talking matters health. It's very, very important that we take a look at health as we as well celebrate International Epilepsy Day. Very, very important that we get to understand nitty-gritty details of this condition and how we need to get to balance this, how we need to get to help the people who have epilepsy, to manage. That's very, very important. So karibu sana. Make sure that you're part and parcel of this. My name once again is Linda Alela, and this is Morning Cafe. Let's briefly take a look at what the papers detail this morning, and then we are going to shift gears into the conversations of the day, as well as looking at what it is that we have in terms of news. So the newspapers, the Daily Nation, the People Daily, and the Standard newspaper. The first bit of the People Daily this morning, let's see what it has. Learners get COVID vaccines in school. That's a great thing, as there were conversations out here as to whether then we should have our students getting COVID-19, knowing very well that reports indicate that students or young targets are not bound to get COVID-19 that fast. So secondary schools across the country have started vaccinating students above age of 15 years. That's something that is worth this as the country continues to gear up towards getting a majority of the people, the entire country, vaccinated, and trying to beat the deadlines. Of course, it's not an easy thing, but all the same, we all hope that we'd be able to get that. And in the event that you're pretty close to where you can access the job, kindly take advantage of the same. It's very important. Mystery of missing Kimwarer Aro report. Well, this is going to be interesting to watch. It's a story captured on page 6, and the cases are still on in court. Investigations being conducted as pertaining to give the courts facts that would be worth incriminating the individuals that have been mentioned on this, or the people who then will have been considered guilty by the court. So we'll be looking at this as we keep asking ourselves just how possible it is for us to deal with the aspect of corruption in the country. As you can see, the Right Honorable right there, after that India tour, Raila returns to a full Azimio tray. Well, ODM leader hits the road immediately. He lands with a series of rallies and meetings to consolidate his stab at the presidency. A story captured on page 8 or expounded on page 8. It's right here also on the front page. And we all know that he's been at India, just having toured that place. And as many would say, the main reason as well is to benchmark on the aspect of getting the 6,000 steep end that he speaks of for vulnerable homes in the event that he gets to presidency, and a couple of other things well received by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and as well more of conversations as pertaining to how then these two countries can work bilaterally together. So away from it, we also get another story that is here. 3 billion bribery claim rocks Kalonzo boat, and it is interesting to watch how politics is panning out. As many say, you know, people have been bribed to shift gears to different parties. Well, extortion. Ukambani governors made the sensational allegations over the weekend, something that will likely impact merger talks. A story captured on page 4. Alfred Mutua says, we know they have asked for 3 billion to sell our Kamba community for own interests. Well, interesting. Dan Manzo says there is nothing like that. We want Raila to come personally and tell our people why he cannot support him. Of course, that is Kalonzo Musyoka. There's been that conversation that the likelihoods One Kenya Alliance would shift gears to join Azimio so that they can form a formidable force as they await to see who will garner the presidency come 2022. That is 9th of August. But just how possible or how easy would that then be? Looking at the One Kenya Alliance principles, Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, of course, Cyrus Jirongo, as well as Martha Karua. Well, the stakes are pretty much high as they're being wooed to cross over to this side, and that then appears like it would be a plus for the Azimio crew or the Azimio side. And so we await to see whether then they will be swayed to cross over to that direction. But then that again will hugely, you know, decide what we are going to do or where we are headed on as pertaining to matters politics in the country. We'll be looking at that, and we see whether indeed this crew will be wooed to that other side. The Kenya Kwanza on the other end has been, you know, making routes to different parts of the country on the 2022 campaign trail. They speak of Kenya Kwanza leaders led by Deputy President William Ruto, Wu Moi's Baringo backyard as Azimio pitches camp in Homa Bay. This is a story captured on page 5 and 7. That's technically what has been playing out over the weekend. It is campaigns and campaigns and campaigns. Remember, even President Uhuru Kenyatta has joined in to say that it's now that time of politics, and therefore much should be expected as pertaining to that. Also on the front page, as you realize, Gladys Wanga on the other side, you know, registering her bid for the Homa Bay gubernatorial position. As many would look at it, a majority are questioning her capability and whether indeed she stands a chance of taking up the mantle and just coming out hugely in terms of making sure that he's able to lead. And you have seen that a majority of the Azimio crew have turned out in large numbers as well in support of Gladys Wanga's bid. So we can only wait to see as well. We have seen very many women, you know, also determined to go out there and support Gladys Wanga, as well as speaking hugely about the Azimio presidential plan or Azimio plan that is towards making sure that we have, you know, a peaceful, a unified Kenya. Whether it will be successful or not is one thing that we are all eagerly waiting to see. This, as government bill seeks to have new civil registration numbers used during elections, something that IEBC counters, and IEBC rejects Huduma number. Well, can't work, won't work. In a letter to members of parliament, the electoral agency's chairman Wafula Chebukati says that the suggestion to incorporate controversial registration number into polls management comes too late, as it would require a lengthy revision of processes and registers, as captured on page 4 or expounded on page 4. We'll be looking at that, and we get to understand how possible is this and of what importance it would be, especially knowing very well that this is the number that has been counted at the level of the courts. Fiery disaster at escarpment. A truck explosion leaves a trail of damage and causes road closure. Well, a truck ferrying liquefied petroleum, a gas burst into flames that is near Mai Mahiu yesterday, burning several other cars and causing a traffic mayhem that lasted the whole day. A story captured on page 8. The scene of the accident at Mutarakwa on the road from Nairobi towards Mai Mahiu there. It's been one that has been looked at as quite unfortunate, and of course investigation still on And of course, it's all clear as to what really caused the fire. But what's important is that we did not get any people losing their lives, as much as there's some few who were hurt there and there, but it wasn't as bad. That is something at least we are happy about, but we all hope then that these damages would be addressed as expected. Judiciary seeks about 1 billion more to pay new judges, and the judiciary needs at least 1 billion. That is to cater for the 34 judges who were appointed last June. Other than catering for the new judges, the judiciary requires about 106.5 million in election-related expenses. A story captured on page 10. Remember, it's been that era where we are discussing the supplementary budgets, and different sectors are bound to benefit from this, but just to make sure that they are cautioned so that they stay afloat. This also, as CBK and public debt grew by 1 trillion last year. This is a report by CBK. Nairobi owed 8.2 trillion by last December, and the National Treasury is seeking parliamentary approval to proceed and increase spending by 126.3 billion over the next 6 months as the government's appetite for loans grows. A story captured on the back page of the Daily Nation, as you can see right there, something that I'm sure will trigger lots of controversies and questions as to whether then this is the right direction to go. Remember the debt ceiling, of course, we're talking about it every other day, and we're talking about how expensive life has become in the country. All this courtesy of the debt, because the taxpayers then has to be pinched hard, and we have to go, the government has gone deep into the pockets of the taxpayer just so they would be able to get monies to pay this debt, and most importantly, to sustain our very own budget, which is extremely high. So away from it, Valentine's, it's not just a fad. Red really is the color of love. This is according to what research speaks of. A story captured on page 2. And once again, I hope that you get to enjoy the best of this Valentine's Day, as well as what has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. I have the hard copy of the same. Let's see, auditor queries varsity funding as CS defends CBC. That is right at the top and is expounded on page 13 and 14. And Education Ministry accused of frustrating public universities, as report raises questions about the institutions are funded or how the institutions are funded. And Magoha says new curriculum here to stay. That, as captured there, we'll be looking at all this conversation as pertaining to matters education in the country, and we get to understand whether we are on the right trajectory. Away from it, 6 issues for voters want leaders to fix. The ground speaks, and too many Kenyans have been denied quality education, and this has locked them out of jobs and confining them to poverty. And voters want economy fixed, agriculture revamped, and steps taken to reduce inequality, as captured on page 4 and 5 of the Standard newspaper. We're speaking about the state of the nation, and that's what we'll be expounding on this morning. 16.5 million Kenyans hold the same amount of wealth as the 2 richest people in the country, exposing the high levels of economic inequality, as captured right there as well. We'll be looking at all that, and we get to understand the ramifications of the same and whether these Kenyans then are lucky enough to get their desires met. Numbers that matter ahead of August polls, well, swing votes. And Kenyan politics is more like an ethnic census. Given this scenario, some regions are poised to play a huge role in influencing who becomes the 5th president in the country. And we crunch the numbers. This is according to what has been captured on pages 6 and 7 as pertaining to what regions then would determine the winner of this vote that we are looking forward to. Changer Braves dramatic Sunday to maintain lead admits to feeling pressure. That is on the rally conversation that is still on, as we are keenly watching to get more updates from our very own sports desk. And you know, the chief editor there as pertaining to matters sports. That is Denise Otieno. For more details on that and our subsequent programs. But away from it, let's briefly take a look at what has been prepared by my team as earlier mentioned. And more than about 7 people were injured and 7 vehicles as well burnt into ashes in a mid-morning truck explosion. Well, the incident happened along the Mutarakwa Maimahi Road after a tanker exploded into flames. And according to eyewitnesses, the tanker, which was transporting liquid gas from Mombasa to Kisumu, overturned before exploding. And Rin Kilemi has the details.
Traffic was halted Sunday morning along the Mutarakwa Maimahi Road after a tanker transporting liquefied petroleum gas exploded. Confirming the incident, Limuru Sub-County Police Commander Anthony Gitonga said the tanker, which was transporting gas from Mombasa to Kisumu, lost control and overturned. Few hours later, officials from the company's management arrived with a crane to tow the overturned tanker when the gas leaked, attracting fire from neighboring homes.
Then the management of that company brought in a crane that was to transfer the tank kutoka kwa ile gari ilipata ajali kwa nyingine yenye sasa ilikuwa ipeleke huko Kisumu.
Lakini wakati gari ilikuja kuinuliwa, ndio hii mlipuko kuguruvuta hiyo gari kutoka mahali ilikuwa mpaka hapa wa exchange. Ndio maana gari wakiinua juu, sijui kama ni ile gas kutoboka kwake wakaona moto, askari sisi tuliona akikimbia kiabia magari zitoroke. Sasa mpaka sisi tukaanza kutoroka mahali tulikuwa mbele huko mbele.
Kuna boma pale chini kulikuwa kumewashwa moto. Nje. Sasa tujui ni nje ama ni kwa boma. So hiyo moto ndio imevuta. Hiyo moto imekuja hadi hapo. Sasa hakuna venye unaweza zuia.
Motorists have however poked holes in the rescue process, saying it did not consider any safety measures.
Even the people who are doing it were not properly armed for such an outcome. Some of them were even hurt. That's why we said we need even better training for the people handling such cases, because this could have been worse, and we've seen even many people lose their property. There are like 3 cars which have been burnt beyond recognition. That was preventable.
Victims of the Sunday morning fire are receiving treatment at the GOtv Mission Hospital in Kiambu County. Motorists using Nairobi Maimayu Highway were advised to use alternative routes as the relevant agencies restored normalcy. Rin Kilemi, TV 47.
Well, quite unfortunate. And I mean, of course, it's a developing story. We'll be here to keep you up to tabs on anything that hits our desks pertaining to the same. Now, Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. In Nakuru County, many adults have now embraced adult education, among them Peter Ondiko and Wamboi, as Chichi Josephine reports.
I read for a little. I don't have much time to read at home.
It is a norm to many that education begins during early stages of childhood. But the narrative has for years changed, with the likes of Peter Ondiko and the team, who never had a privilege to go to school during their childhood.
How do you call this sound? Boo. Boo.
Peter Ondiko, a family man and a father of 5, decided to join adult education last year at literacy level, which is the very first level of education, since he could not attain during his childhood due to family issues.
Kosa kwangu kusoma ni mambo ya kifamilia. Nikaanza kuchunga ng'ombe. Mimi nimefanya karibu 20 years kuchunga ng'ombe kwa watu shamba boy. Masomo inasaidia mambo mingi sana. Nilikuwa naenda pale kwa bank. Sasa kwa sababu sijui kuandika, inabidi naita soja akuja nisaidie kuandika. Lakini kwa sasa naweza andika jina langu.
Peter, who was a hawker, now a gospel artist, narrates that the need to be able to read the Bible motivated him to keep trying even harder.
Kurudi kwangu kusoma, unajua nilikuwa hawker. Na sasa unaona, hata mtu akikuongelesha Kisungu, unamuongelesha broken. Kwa sababu ile Kizungu hauwezi weza kuitamka vizuri. Na sasa hata mkiongea naye unaongea broken, so unajionea haya. Na mke wangu amesoma. Tujunia twangu tumesoma. So unapata huko kwa nyumba anaongea Kizungu na ushikanishi ni aje. So hata unaona afadhali hata mimi nirudi shule Nifanye nini? Nisome. By the way, wife yangu ndanileta hapa kwa sababu mimi nataka kuwa mchungaji. Na uwezi kuwa mchungaji kama hujasoma. Utawezaje kusomea watu Biblia? Na pia mimi ni mwimbaji.
Anne Wambui and her schoolmates narrate that they have to do appropriate planning and balancing to ensure they attend classes and go to work.
Nilikuwa nimesomanga hadi form 2 alafu nikaacha shule. Cause vile my mama alipass. So life ikakuwa ngumu, so singeweza kuendelea. So nika drop. Okay, nimekuwa nikiajiriwa za waitress ama receptionist. Sasa nikaona hizo kazi nikichanganya na masomo nitalose kitu moja. Nikaona acha tu ni focus tu na masomo. At least nikifocus juu si haita take time long.
Ukiingia pale shuleni, kumbuka ni adult education, lazima hiyo masaa uweze kuyagawanyisha kwa sababu kuna majukumu nyumbani na pia shuleni unatakikana.
However, they narrate that a lot of stigma comes along with adult education.
Most challenges that we face is that maybe outside there, watu wakisikia umerudi shule, especially our age, najasa tumefika ile age yenye si ati ni 18 or 20, early 20s. So it's like the old non-Gumbaru school. It's all that is there, every people's mind.
Kuna wengine ni waoga, hawataki hata kwenda na hizi vitabu kwa nyumba. Watoto wasione ndio wanasoma nao. Ba baby. Lakini sasa mimi naenda tunasoma nao. Nawauliza, hebu nitamkieni ile leta. Ananiambia hiyo ni O.
Faced with scarcity of classes and shortage of learning equipment, they want the county government to chip in and ensure better learning environment.
Tungeomba serikali iweke hii shule ikiwa wazi, juu inakaa ni kama imefichwa. Kama wangeweza kutuwekea signboard hapa kwa barabara, ni ili wale wajasoma wako huko nje wengi wapate hii elimu, juu inasaidia watu wengi sana. Ni vile watu wajui.
According to Nakuru West Sub-County Adult Education Officer Madam Washera Githae, the learning need among the adult students is knowing how to communicate in English.
All the learners who come through adult education, for literacy and for whatever level, they want to know how to communicate in English.
She notes that there are different levels of education and the teacher must employ strategies in teaching.
You realize that in our classes we handle up to secondary level, up to form 4. So now when you are handling the basic, you don't use the same method you are using when you are handling the form 4s. But the teachers again have different calibers.
Washera adds that lack of proper infrastructure and teaching staff are some of the main challenges that they are facing.
We have monetary resources. There are very big challenges. The teachers, the numeration of teachers poor, because there is no monetary allocation for as such. And then we also have the challenges of physical teaching, learning resources.
She, however, noted that the current adult education system is different from the old Gumbaru school. In fact, people have started moving away from shying away from joining the education system to make the impossible possible.
We want to people to know adult education is not only literacy. It's not only literacy. Like colleges and universities are also doing adult education.
Which number can go to all this except?
Certainly, of course, worth celebrating. Now to politics, ODM Party Secretary General Edwin Sifuna has questioned IEBC's Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee for summoning Muranga Member of Parliament Sabina Chege over her recent utterances regarding the 2017 presidential outcome. And as Micah Gwongo reports, Sifuna says the electoral body should open the 2017 servers before questioning politicians over the election's outcome.
As IEBC's Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee brings to bear order and peaceful campaigns during the electioneering period, Azimio la Umoja camp has castigated their move to summon Muranga County Representative Sabina Chege. This follows her utterances at a public rally in Isibuye in Vihiga County on February 10, 2022 during the Azimio la Umoja movement mobilization rally. In a media brief on Sunday after attending a church service at ACK Holy Trinity Church in Kibra, Nairobi, ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna says Murang'a County lawmakers' sentiments are not regrettable since it has been in public domain that there has been election manipulation in the past general elections.
Hata nimeshangaa IBC wanamwandikia Sabina Chege barua. Ni kama ni mara ya kwanza IBC kusikia wakiambiwa wanaibanga kura. Kwani hawajui kura wao inaibiwa hii Kenya? Sabina Chege ndio amesema, yeye ndio wa kwanza kusema kura iliibiwa. Tulienda mpaka Supreme Court 2017.
In a statement on Friday, the Commission's Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee Secretary asked the MP to appear before the Commission's Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee on Tuesday for interrogation. Sifuna, however, says the committee should be ready for a tough battle against their barristers.
Tunataka kabla waite Sabina Chege huko, sijui wanamuita kufanya nini, watufungulie server ya 2017. Watufungulie server ya 2017 tuone matokeo iko hapo ndani. Na sisi tunataka kusema kama kikosi cha Azimio, wale mawakili ambao tutaweka nyuma ya Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege wakati anaenda IBC, Chebukati atafute nafasi. Chebukati atafute nafasi. Ile kikosi ya mawakili ambaye walishinda IBC kwa Supreme Court ndio wanakuja na Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege. Vile wamemuita huko, sijui wanataka kusikia nini.
The remarks sparked wildfire on social media, where leaders and supporters of Deputy President William Ruto have since challenged her to substantiate her remarks. Last week, Ruto dismissed the remarks that the 2017 election was rigged in the favor of the Jubilee Party and told of Sabina Chege. The rivalry between ODM-2 factions in Nairobi County has also escalated, as leaders led by Tim Wanyonyi told off their counterparts led by Richard Ngatia to stop cheap politics of handouts. The Tim Wanyonyi camp, comprising of former Dagoretti Member of Parliament Dennis Waweru and ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, said they will not accommodate corrupt people in Azimio.
Kama wewe ni mkora, usikuje kutafuta ticket ya baba. Hatutakupatia ticket, badala ya ticket tutakupeleka kamiti. Hiyo ndio tumesema. Sisi tunataka watu ambao ni wasafi na wana maadili. Baba ni mtu ambaye anajulikana internationally kuwa mtu msafi.
We want to say Nairobi, it is team Azimio, clean team versus wakora. Mtatusaidia kufukuza wakora?
Hatutakuja hapa kupangwa na watu na hawajawahi saidia Raila Amolo Odinga hata kuingia kwa ground kumuombea kura moja. Nawaambia wana Nairobi viongozi, kama mtu ako Azimio, kuwa kijana, kuwa na ukakamavu, enda kwa ground ukaombe kura.
Aspirants who have announced that they will be vying under the Azimio la Umoja ticket include the incumbent Anne Kananu, Westlands Member of Parliament Tim Wanyonyi, Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry KNCCI President Richard Ngatia, and businesswoman Agnes Kagore.
But eventually, my vision is a Nairobi without even one slum. I'll ensure my first agenda is to create jobs for this youth so that the security can be boosted, because when they are busy, they always not think about any crime, because most of them, they go to the crime because of lack of employment.
Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
And a section of leaders allied to Azimio la Umoja have warned Deputy President William Ruto against disrespecting his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Well, the leaders led by Governors Nderitu Mureithi of Laikipia, Hassan Joho of Mombasa, cautioned the DP and his team against attacks on President Uhuru. In the recent past, there has been war of words between President Kenyatta and his deputy.
Unajua hata mimi nilikuwa na noma na Uhuru Kenyatta. Sivyo? Lakini noma yangu sikumtusi. Nilikuwa namwambia usinidanganye, hiyo sio matusi. Nilimwambia hujaleta maendeleo, leta maendeleo, sio matusi. Lakini ile nimeona saa hii ni matusi of the highest order. Na mimi nataka kuambia William Ruto, tafadhali heshimu viongozi.
Nimeona juzi kama huyu William Ruto amekwisha hapa Mount Kenya, kura yake yote imehama, imeenda kwa Azimio. Wananchi wa Mount Kenya yote wameingia Azimio. Sasa wameenda kutafuta reinforcement na support kutoka Mudavadi na Wetangula. watu ambao walikuwa na sisi ambayo ukiweka hao kwa ratili hata watoshi mboga.
Kuna watu kazi yao ni matusi, na sisi tunasema hatutabishana na wao. Sisi tunataka maendeleo.
Matusi kwa Rais Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta hatutakubali. And we want to tell the Deputy President, we want to warn you, the Deputy President and your troop, that hautakuwa unatukana mkubwa wako Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta kama tunaangalia. He is not your match. He is not your match.
Ukiona mwanasiasa na yeye ni naibu ya rais akiamuka, kazi yake ni kumtusi yule ambaye ni rais wa jamhuri. Sasa wewe kijana au mimi, je, atakuheshimu wewe?
Leaders allied to Kenya Kwanza political outfit have threatened to expose President Uhuru Kenyatta if he continues to attack his deputy William Ruto. The leaders were speaking in Baringo County.
Speaking in Baringo County, the Kenya Kwanza Brigade said that they respect the president, warning that if he continues attacking the DP, they will not hesitate spilling the beans on him.
Mr. President, we dare you to spill the beans. We are going to pour the beans. We know a lot, some of us who worked with you. Wewe jaribu. We dare you to spill the beans on William Ruto. We shall spill the beans on your leadership the last 9 years.
Last week, President Kenyatta accused his deputy of abandoning his duties to focus on politics. The DP would later respond that he has been working and therefore deserves a credit on the achievements of the Jubilee government.
Mimi sijaona rais wowote popote duniani anapigana na naibu wake. Isitoshe, rais wetu akadanganywa. Wale watu wote walimsaidia, akawatupilia mbali. Alitapeli William Ruto, akatapeli Aden Duale, akatapeli Kithure Kindiki.
They also accused the president of intimidating them for their support for the DP and his hustler movement, adding that they will not be coerced into voting for Raila Odinga in the coming general elections.
Mwambia rais asitishe sisi. Na sisi hatuna shida na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Ni kiongozi wetu. Na tulimchagua mara 3. Na wengine wetu tulimfanyia kazi usiku na mchana. Tunakuheshimu. Lakini huwezi kutulazimisha na kutuchagulia kiongozi ambaye atakuja baada yako.
Watu wa upinzani, please, you are a disgrace to the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya gave you a job to do in the opposition to keep government in check. Instead, you became lackeys, you became brokers, you became servants in the administration, and you went ahead to steal from the people of Kenya. Today you want to give me a lecture about the government of Kenya.
ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and his counterpart Moses Wetangula said that they are looking forward for 70% plus one win in the coming presidential election, calling on Kenyans to vote for the Kenya Kwanza movement.
Tumewaangalia wale tunabishana nao. Kila mahali wakienda wanamutusi Ruto, wanamutusi Musalia, wanamutusi Weta, wanatusi watu wa Kenya, hawana sera yoyote.
Sisi hatutaki serikali ambayo Uhuru anatuambia amestaafu, lakini ameshika remote control. Akiambia Raila enda left, Raila anafanya left. Akifinya button right, Raila anaenda right. Akisema jump, Raila anaruka. Akisema pause, Raila ana pause. Hapana serikali kama hiyo. Hatupangwi, si ndio?
The Kenya Kwanza Brigade held rallies in Ilngarwe, in Ilchamus, and Kabarnet Showground.
Still on politics, and One Kenya Alliance principal and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has asked the church not to tire in praying for peace in the country. Kalonzo says he will not embrace people motivated by negative energies as he forges ahead with his quest for presidency. The Wiper leader says the church must be at the center to guide the country towards cohesive and peaceful elections as the country's political heat rises by the day.
In the name of the Lord. There is no victory without the cross. Avoid negative people. I will take that with me. Avoid negative people. Because there are so many people spreading negative energy in our country, everywhere. If we can avoid negative people, we would have a wonderful nation. Please pray for us. Pray for us as we go on this journey, all of us, all the political leaders. You're saying we should not talk about politics. I won't. In fact, I think if I went into politics, anybody can. Because as a young student at the University of Nairobi, I was a secretary to the University Worship Committee.
All right, it's now time that we take a short break and we come back, get to introduce the pundits of the day as we expound further on the state of the nation. Keep it right here. The week. Joining me for this conversation, gentleman, Neto Agostino, the co-party leader of United Green Movement. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us, sir. Happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's to all the viewers. Thank you very much, Brenda.
Thank you so much, as well as Joash Mangi, who's the Deputy Governor of Kisii County. Mhesh, thank you so much for creating time.
Thank you, Linda, and I'm sorry that I didn't get the memo.
Oh, man, the memo, but at least black is good enough, we say.
Black is good.
Black is good enough. All right. Barak Muluka is joining us virtually, communication advisor. Daktari, how are you?
I'm fine, fit and able, and that's
Hey.
Memo is home. How are you?
Governor Manji should style up a little bit.
I
He should know
mean.
that romance is the freedom of.
He says the black serves the purpose, or at least Neto says so. So
I'm wearing a red undershirt.
Well put. I was waiting for you to say that. I was waiting. You know, my director kept saying, "You never know. You never know until now." Nijimi.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning. We had an incredible session last week as pertaining to Valentine's. Tukasema Monday, we stick to politics. We stick to what is playing out as per current affairs, and most importantly, those are the conversations that will be of great importance to the people who are watching us this morning. And so we get to the conversation. Briefly take a look at the papers as we expound further. Mhesh, I am told the stakes of Kisii favor you so much so. This is a person who just dropped a text and you see, Mangi is going to be the next governor of Kisii. The stakes are favoring him. Quite a person who's active as pertaining to matters politics on ground. What do you say about that statement?
I thank God. I thank
Do
God
you
for
think
it.
they favor you? Kuna wengine na nyinyi pia wanasiasa, sometimes you surprise me. Evidently you can almost tell that you're not headed anywhere, but you still stick and say that the stakes favor you.
No, but if you hear people speaking like that, it means they have assessed the ground, and it is true that the stakes favor them. I and Governor Ngwai we have tried our level best over the 9 years. If you go to the counties in Nyanza, you will realize that Kisii has shown tremendous progress. Kisii town, that was almost a shopping center in 2013, is now big, as Neto will confirm as he passes to Homa Bay, is now a big cosmopolitan.
Right.
In fact, we were told after Nakuru became a city, next is going to be Eldoret, Meru, and then Kisii. No, Eldoret, Kisii, then Meru. So we have done our part. Right. We have the best hospital in the region, which was built after we took over. We have the best stadium, which was built after. So we have transformed Kisii. And the only person who can continue with the job that we started with Governor Ngwai is the person who was there, and that is me.
All right.
And I am glad that the people of Kisii have appreciated that. I am looking forward to August 9th.
9, yes.
It's going to be declared.
All right. Well, let's all be, keen to see whether that plays out. All the best, Mhesh, as we are watching keenly. Now, Barak, Emmanuelia sits in Kakamega.
Absolutely.
Governor Oparanya has done fairly well, so to speak. And now that I am certain you are not vying for any position, does it instill some level of fear to think of who's going to take up from him in terms of making Kakamega better?
Indeed, Governor Oparanya, apart from, of course, the political hustings as usual, has been a very practical manager of the county. In my estimation, he has been easily the best governor of all the 47 governors across the country. We usually say that if you want to know that you have left Kakamega and you are, say, for example, in Siaya next door in Bungoma, you just look at the state of the roads, you look at the physical infrastructure, you look at the water network, and you know that you have left Kakamega. If you leave Emmanuelia here, you get to Yala. Nobody needs to tell you you are in Yala, you are in Siaya. You just see the difference.
All right, there you go. So back to you, Mhesh. How they say politics is local. How local are you taking it this time around?
I mean, first of all, let me just comment about what these two gentlemen have said. First, for His Excellency Mangi, I think, like he said before, we have a long history, and mine is to just wish him the very best for as he runs for Kisii governor. I think Kisii, like he says, really. It's been a good place. The transformation that we've seen in Kisii, the level 5 hospital, I think everyone knows 90% of the referrals from Homa Bay actually end up in Kisii, which is a big shame, and that's the reason I'm laughing at Dr. Muluka. Dr. Balak Muluka is saying that there's a clear distinction when you leave Kisii and you come into Homa Bay County, or when you leave Kakamega and get into Siaya County. I mean, it's really the Luo Nyanza counties have been, for lack of a better word, seriously a disgrace, and His Excellency is here and he can confirm. And so, if you ask me about my local politics, you know, it's been a shame what we have in Homa Bay, what we have in Siaya, in terms of healthcare, in terms of the road infrastructure. And you know, we have two different gentlemen from two different parts of Western Kenya saying that. I hope that the next governor from Homa Bay County, whoever they elect, is going to be a good governor and can borrow, because, you know, Kisii is not very far. They can go and borrow. I mean, I liked when, you know, Governor Ogwai and His Excellency Mangi were working on this avocado plant or something like that. You know, if you see the infrastructure they've put up in place, there are places like in Keumbu and, you know, Sunika that are really, they've put up place, you know, looks like there's some planning going on, looks like some thinking going on, you know, which creates the fact that devolution really works. You know, if you go to Kakamega, and I have friends there, and I frequent Kakamega, you know, for Oparanya to be running a fish processing factory, when in Siaya and Homa Bay there's no fish processing factory, that simply shows you that something is wrong with the caliber of people we elect in Homa Bay and Siaya. And I hope that the electorates are watching and they can actually improve on it. And, you know, you don't have to go benchmarking in China. There is benchmarking in Kisii and benchmarking in Kakamega, you know. So that's going to be very easy to do. And congratulations, Excellencies, and I wish you the very best as you run for the elections.
And I asked, how local do you plan to take this?
I'm going to run for MP in Diwa, and I'm requesting the the people in Diwa to find it in their hearts that they should re-elect me as a member of parliament for Diwa in August the 9th. And they know what we did together. The stakes speak there for themselves, and I hope they can give me another chance for another 5 years so that we can transform the constituency.
You know, we do not run away from talking about this that has been captured in the papers. And of course, it's Azimio, but most importantly, it's Gladys Wanga.
I think there are like 3 or 4 contenders who are serious. There's the chairman of the ODM party, Honorable John Badi, who's done a credible job. There's also the former governor for Nairobi, His Excellency Evans Kidero. And there's also the former county secretary of Homa Bay, Honorable Isaiah Ogwe. And unlike Mangi, there are some of them who are going to benefit from the infrastructure of the institution. You know, an incubancy, he knows what they've done right, he knows what they've done wrong. So when you are running against someone who's been an incumbent, it's always some advantage there it lies. So there's also the Honorable Joseph Oyugi Magwanga, who did a very good job. So there are like 5 candidates who are running, and all of them have different constituencies. You know, the structure of Homa Bay is such that there are various clans, there are various families that vote together. So until you come from one of those families, it's always very difficult to say that you can really crack it. So let us see, as we are watching, as we are low players, we are in the second tier. Members of parliament shall not comment on governance issues.
you know, there's also the deputy governor.
Yes.
No, the deputy governor.
The deputy is not.
No, he doesn't stand a chance. Let's not discuss him on national TV. No.
They are talking about a government that has failed, so definitely that it means the deputy governor does not stand a chance. But this is an ODM affair, clearly. Wanga is probably the only woman in the race, so to speak, as what has been declared so far. And, you know, we're looking at a scenario where we're talking about a home turf for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And like he rightfully puts it, it appears like those ones over, you know, the Luo Nyanza side have not been doing so well. But then again, most of the times they will sail through courtesy of their support for Baba. What will it take for the electorate down there to understand it's not about you being a staunch supporter of the kingpin of this particular region, but it's about you going down there, selling your manifesto and being able to implement that manifesto?
You know, that question should have been directed to NATO. Because it comes from Luo Nyanza.
But you are, I directed it to you because you are under ODM.
Yes, but you see, the Kisii politics are not exactly homogeneous. And that's why you realize that in 2017, we actually did not have even one single ODM member of parliament from Kisii. But we had the governor, the deputy, the senator, and the women rep, all of them in ODM. So in Kisii, you must sell your manifesto. The party will help you a little, but the party is not the ultimate helper, like you will say in Luo Nyanza.
Right.
But people love Raila Odinga in Kisii. There's the feeling of neighborness. There's the feeling of brotherhood. That, you know, if we have a president who comes from the neighborhood, then, you know, you may get some benefits. Other than that, we know the Kisii and the Luos, we have had a very long-term relationship. And then, like our other neighbors on the other side, and I say this politely, we've had issues of cattle rustling between the Kisiis, the Kipsigis, and the Maasais. So you find that there's a little bit of enmity. But between the Kisii and the Luos, what we've been having for a long time is trade. So for a long, if you went to Ugis, which is in Homa Bay, I think a third of the traders in Ugis are Kisiis. Now, if you go to Kisumu, I think the predominant traders in Kisumu are like Kisiis, Kikuyus, and Somalis. Of course, other than the local, the Luos. So we have a lot of business relationship between the Kisii and the Luos. So it's easier to relate with them.
Okay.
So for us, for the Kisiis, we say that we don't vote with our hearts. We fought with our brains.
Okay, all right. So who votes with the heart in this case?
I think what Governor Mange is saying is a serious economic issue, which is a serious political issue, and he actually breaks it down in a very simple manner. You see, the act of development is something called constructive destruction, and I like when he puts it that, you know, they vote using their heads as opposed to their hearts. It's supposed to be a contest of ideas.
Yes.
You see, people should go to the vote contesting various ideas. You see, the problem we have in a place like Homa Bay, like in Siaya, you know, you have the problem of people allying themselves to Raila, and Raila having endorsed one particular person. That person becomes a leader, whether a member of parliament, whether governor. Does not matter what their credentials are. It takes away what in development parlance is called constructive destruction. It's supposed to be a marketplace of ideas. You buy my idea and you vote for me because my idea is better than Governor Mangi's, or my idea is better than Governor Dr. Muluka's. But you see, if you have a place where, because Baba has said, so it does not then matter who comes to the top. It stops many people from coming to the top. And you see, that's why the people in Kisii, if you give them one who is not competent, then you can as well count that there's not going to be a vote. And that is why, you know, or like I said, ODM had 0 MP in Kisii because they saw what was given to them was not good enough. So there's a better idea here and they picked it. So until the people in Homa Bay, until the people in Siaya would look, it will be a contest of ideas, a contest of manifestos. I really think that we'll have a serious problem. Because, you know, in the last elections, really, you had better people with better ideas in the space. But because they were not able to dance too much
to the tune.
To TBM, I think they suffered the consequences.
Barak, and we don't want to leave you out in the cold for quite a long time, and we won't do that, I promise. Evidently, a notable devolution has come on board to probably remind these people that, you know, you need to elect better. The fact that you say that these notable differences when you cross from different county, you know, say Kisumu, from Kisumu, say to Kakamega, from Kakamega to a different county, that is in Luo Nyanza, it is evident that there is a miss in terms of what it is that the leaders there are doing. What will it take? Because, for instance, take an example of what they speak of about the senior council. They say he doesn't even have to go down to campaign to be senator of Siaya. It is almost an automatic win. And on several occasions, even people who are hailing from there, I've had them say that, you know, he doesn't have to come back home to tell us that he wants to be the governor. It is an automatic win. Well, this because he's allied to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. What will it take for them to realize that they are lagging behind, for them to realize that it's not just about these political allegiance, there's more to that?
Yeah, by senior council, I'm sure you are talking about Senator James Orengo.
Yes.
And that actually you don't see him anywhere on the ground. The Manyudia here is a walking distance from Siaya. Siaya begins just across here in Yala, Anyiko, in fact. It's about 3 kilometers from where I am right now. And James Orengo has not been seen around for quite a while. The MPs, you don't see them. What you need to do is to be a good praise singer, to be able to demonstrate public shows of loyalty. In fact, let's just call it sycophancy. That the more sycophantic you are, the more likely you are to be elected. And the people of Luo Nyanza have deliberately elected to shortchange themselves. But again, are we sure that they have shortchanged themselves? Perhaps that is what they want. We must ask ourselves, what prisms are we making these judgments? Because I think they can only be called judgments. Through what kinds of prisms is this judgment being made? What is it that thrills them? They probably like the great hero, the great warrior, like Luanda Magere, like Gor Mahia, like the great Jaramogi, like the great Luo leaders who led the migrations from Bahr el Ghazal to the Great Lakes region. Yeah? When you look at the migrations of peoples into what is today called Kenya, it's only among the Luo that it's very clear. You hear that there were the Joka Ojo, the Joka Omolo, the Joko Winyi, and the rest. The rest of the Bantu people, for example, you just hear about Bantu migration. So the Luo traditionally are people who love their heroes, the great heroes, and they probably get thrilled when Gor Mahia scores and beats everybody in the Africa Cup of Nations. They have their thrill and they are quite happy. So perhaps when we expect that there should be roads and that there should be big hospitals like the ones in Kisii, we use the wrong prisms. Raphael Tuju was a member of parliament for Rarieda. He brought roads, he brought dairy farming, he brought mobile clinics. And when the critical moment came for him to seek re-election, he was told to take away his roads and to take away his clinics. The critical thing was that he was not a Baba worshipper. If we really want to be honest, that's what we should call it. And the difference between the great Luo professor and the ordinary villager when it comes to matters of choosing leaders is not there. They are all the same. And I say this with a lot of humility because living in the neighborhood of Luo land, I have relatives there. My own daughter is married in Nyamila here in Alego, Mirakager clan. And so I also have a profound respect for that community. Otherwise, as a father, I would have said, I don't want my daughter to be married here. But that does not detract from the truth. Honorable Agostino Neto says, and I agree with him completely, that when you look at devolved government, you look at the performance of His Excellency Colonel Rasanga in Luoland next door here, it's a disgrace. When you look at Homa Bay, it's a total disgrace. I went to Homa Bay a few years ago doing an evaluation on behalf of the Commission for Revenue Allocation. And it was shameful that right at the county headquarters itself, there was no water. There were no ablution facilities. 4 years into devolution at that time, it's a disgrace that the only thing you need to do is to be seen to be overzealous. And in Homa Bay, where they have now about a galaxy, so to speak, of 5 or so, it's going to be a question of who is loudest in their zealous support or worship of Baba. And you don't need to be exceptionally intelligent to tell who it's going to be. So they need to move away from that hero worship. But as I have said, it depends on what it is that electorate wants. If that's what thrills them, who are we?
I cannot believe that Dr. Muluka is describing my village like that for that long. I really think that First of all, he simply says that the prisms that the people in Luo Nyanza use for development are different. I think that is not true. That's not correct. Because, for the longest, Luo Nyanza produced the best professors, the best teachers. We had the best schools and everything else, which means that the Luo at certain points will definitely know what is good for them. I mean, for the longest, if you came to Homa Bay town in the years of Thomas Joseph Mboya, I mean, one of the best cities, the best designed, and Governor Mangi will agree with me because he lives next door. Everything else was in Homa Bay, proper designed, proper installed city, and everything else. So yes, I think it is true that we in Luo Nyanza know what is good and what is good for us. But also we must appreciate that, everything else rises and falls on leadership. The true test of development really is the leader sets the tone of everything else. We hope that, the next set of leaders that we can get. And we hope that the electorate, social welfare issues, like I see you have in the newspapers today, issues of poverty, issues of education, issues of healthcare, are things that really concern almost every Kenyan. The Luo is as much concerned about the poverty issues. So I really think that our leadership really just need to respond to the needs and aspirations of the people so that it is possible, for example, to have people who are going to be bothered about healthcare, about roads, about giving people capacity. So yes, it is true that at some point we've had a set of leaders who have not really responded to the needs of the people, but that does not mean that everyone else in Luo Nyanza does not really appreciate what development looks like. So I really think we need to go back to the various facets of what informs development, that we must really give leaders who have a chance, leaders with ideas, leaders with aspirations, and leaders who are bothered about the social welfare of the people. I mean, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, when he was running for presidency, had ideas in terms of how Kenya or the Luo people should go. And we saw development in that particular sector. So I really think the best you can tell us is we'll copy from our Kisii neighbors. We'll also copy from our Luhya neighbors.
You need to copy fast.
We hope the next administrations will then go and benchmark that. That's what I said before. And I hope we can then get Luo Nyanza to the place it should be.
As though you read my mind, I would have asked the same thing. Why is it that, we have most of the landed people hailing from there, but still we do not seem to have this real and desire for, such developmental projects that we speak of. And probably that then would vindicate Barack's argument. And just looking at what it is that the papers detail, like you have rightfully put it on the Standard.
Before you go on, Linda.
Yes.
Just to remind my good friend Mheshimiwa Agostino Neto that Tom Mboya, whom he cites, was in fact not elected by the Luo. Elected him, but he was elected by Kenyans in Kamkunji, which was his constituency in Nairobi. And the people of Kamkunji are looking at things differently from how things are seen in Homa Bay.
Okay. Fair enough.
Dr. Muluka, the people of Ndiwa had a chance to elect me in 2012 and again in 2013. Were they so wrong in electing me? I mean,
that is his concern. That is actually Barack's concern. He says in Rarieda, they got Tuju, who brought lots of goodies, but they told him away because you are not in support of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, or you're not in ODM, and therefore away with all this goodness that you bring on. But probably that's what happened in Ndiwa.
Yeah, but I think with the clerical examples that my two colleagues have mentioned, I think that the voter in Luo Nyanza is woken up. I mean, the voter in Luo Nyanza is awoke. Look at my friend, Honorable David Ocheng of MDG, got elected in Orirengo's backyard in a by-election. I think that was a clear indication in terms of where the Luo vote is going to go in 2022. And that's why for us, some of us, I'm running on the United Green Movement Party because I know the Luos have woken up. They've discovered that, this thing called the vote really means everything else. That in the vote is education, in the vote there's development. So we hope that, as we campaign for Raila's presidency at the national level, the people in Luo Nyanza can then elect those who can support the development issues, because development is local. It's all localized. It's about the market issues. It's about the education issues. So I really hope that we have a chance to elect people based on the manifesto, like the people in Kisii do, like the people in Western Kenya do, in a manner that will help the Luo people move forward. So we really look for that.
But Mheshimiwa here will as well tell you that, in as much as the Kisiis would not focus much on the heart, but the aspect of, what is being brought to them on the table, they will as well tell you that the ground is all ODM, at least from what it is the DG has told us right here. And therefore, in as much as you'd want to go out there, sell the best of manifestos, if you're not talking the language of ODM, somehow, just somehow, it is a disadvantage for you.
Before I comment on that, let me say something. Muruka, Dr. Balak Muruka, introduces a very interesting topic. That is the place of culture in leadership.
Okay.
That's extremely important. You see, if you look at most of the populous tribes in Kenya, they had a very entrenched system of leadership, such that among the Kikuyus, if you were the Mtongole, you were respected. What you said was low. Among the Luos, if you were Ruoth, Odera Kango, when he told everybody to go to school, everybody went to school. That's why they are very many professors. They listen to him. So right now, when Daira speaks, they see him more like a Ruoth. They listen to him. Among the Kalenjins, they are the Koyots. When they speak, when Ruto speaks now, when Mo used to speak, they will see him as the Alukoyot some way. Among the Maasais, we have the Laibonis. So they had a clear system of leadership. Among the lawyers, we are the Wangas. There was a clear system of leadership. And that is what sometimes is still continuing. So when you see Laira Morodinga speaking among the Luos, they see our Ruoth, our king has spoken. So they listen to him.
Okay.
But among the Kisses, we didn't have that. Among the Kisses, leadership was absolutely competitive. Even before independence, people who became leaders in our community were champions. You went literally for a wrestling match, and if you won, you became the champion for that time. And then next time, another clan will bring their champion, and they compete. So that is the culture we have continued. So we don't elect, we don't hero worship.
But
Instead,
still, the Kisii,
just a minute, we elect champions. So in Kisii, because our land is so small, and it's very competitive, we look for a champion, a man who will bring change to our community, a man who will bring change to our village.
It is stubbornly patriarchal. That's why you hear the DG even speaking of a man who will bring change. It's still patriarchal in Kisii County. What will it take for us to run away from that as well?
Unfortunately, I must agree with you that Kisiis are still very patriarchal. And, but you know, the place of women in Kisii is changing. We have a number of competitive women now in various constituencies. Yeah. Janet Ongera, the current women rep, is running for governor. So I think slowly we're headed there, but that's why I said Barack introduces a very interesting point, the place of culture and leadership. The place of culture and leadership in Kisii has two aspects. Number one, our culture is competitive. So you go for the champion, you go for the strongest. But at the same time, it's also very patriarchal. That is why a woman running for leadership in Kisii has to try and fight 2 times to reach where money is, unfortunately. And you know, these things, we have to keep on changing. We must look. I believe that we have, as human beings, we have a responsibility to move away from bad characters, to move away from bad habits, bad beliefs. One of the bad beliefs in Kisii is the patriarchal nature of our approach to leadership.
This answers my question as well. And that then pushes us to shift gear. Briefly, of course, we all know that this has been touched on. NATO had mentioned it, that there are 6 things that Kenyans would wish for the leaders to come and fix, and therefore I'd want to believe that this cuts across. Well, thanks to devolution, then we realize how much of development we need. And of course, it speaks of education, that is quality education, speaks of jobs, dealing with poverty, the aspect of economy, agriculture, that will be revamped, and as well as just to address the aspect of inequality in the country. These are stories that are captured on page 4 and 5 of the Standard newspaper. And just to couple it up on the front page of the Daily Nation, IEBC rejects Huduma number and, speaks of how then there needs to be a balance as pertaining to that. I don't even know why we have this conversation of the Huduma number, knowing very well that this is something that has been challenged in court successfully, or so to speak. So I don't know on what basis then this is cropping up. But of course, in your wisdom, Barack, what will it take for the voter then to understand these great things that they need at this time and age? Maybe that's the reason why a majority will castigate the hustler narrative. Maybe that's the reason why they will try to say that, let's overlook the aspect of symbolism and say that, a wheelbarrow is not what you want to sell to the people right now. It goes beyond that. At this time and age of technology, this time and age where, we're trying to match up with the global fraternity, we cannot be, making reverse as opposed to moving forward.
Thank you, Linda. You shoot through multiple barrels. I will try to find the common thread.
All right.
And let me start from the hustler narrative. Actually, the hustler narrative is the closest that I have come to hearing anyone attempting to position an issue before Kenyans and saying that this is a model that we purpose to adopt and to use if we are elected. They have, however, not broken it down significantly for it to be clearly understood. I have no problem with the wheelbarrow, for example, because the wheelbarrow is just a symbol of work. There are other political formations that have their symbols. I've seen people who have a jogo, for example, a cock. Are they saying that they are going to place a jogo in every hand, or an orange? Are they going to place an orange in every homestead, or an umbrella for that matter? Therefore, that does not worry me very much. That symbol is Ford Kenya saying they are going to bring lions in the neighborhood, and what are we going to do with those lions? The wheelbarrow I see as a symbol of work, and that if they had people who could communicate clearly, they probably would be telling us that we must, as Mwai Kibaki used to say, be a working nation and go back to working at the micro, macro, small and medium enterprise levels and grow them and use them as the nurseries from which the economy is going to grow upwards. And when they say that, they are not saying anything new, because as students of development communication, we are aware of the great debates that began in the 1970s with the McBride report on the international flow of information, on the diffusion of innovations. I don't want to get too technical, too academic, but we know about arguments that were posited by such scholars, Eva Retrojas, about the diffusion of innovations. There was the dominant paradigm that said development must take place in a few places at the top, and then it must trickle down. But later scholars like Rogers, like John Somavia of South America said, no, you must develop the best first, and then the benefits can start spreading across horizontally out, and then they can go up. And globally, that is now a model that is being embraced. You have heard President Biden talking about that. And I would be happier listening to the ideologues on the other side, finding the faults with that model and positioning alternative models. Instead, what I'm seeing is a degeneration of the debate to the level of mutual insolence, that even those who have attempted to come up with the hustler narrative, with the bottom up, they also tend to lose their script and rise to the bait of insolence. And we have gotten to a point where the gloves are off, and as the Americans would say, the mess has hit the fan, and it's now very dirty. His Excellency, the President, who should be a symbol of national unity, because I think those who crafted the Constitution of Kenya, if you look at Article 131E, the authority of the President, the role of the President as a national symbol is very significant. And those who crafted the Constitution were thinking of times such as this, that if debate starts degenerating to the levels where it has gotten now, the President would play that now symbolic role and say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, wait a minute, you are going overboard. This is the time now when, as George Saitoti would say, we must place the country first, the welfare of the country ahead. But
Fair
the
enough.
President say, let's place the country first, because if he says, let's place the country first, he will sound as if he's saying Kenya Kwanza. And it's not in his interest to say anything like that. So he's joining
Fair
the
enough,
fray.
Barack. Fair enough. We're going to come to, the role of the president in the current state of politics. Now that you speak of the fact that, there would be evident fear of saying, Kenya first. But here we are. There's someone who's watching and argues Barack should be careful of not being labeled a sycophant. Someone by the name Emmanuel, he says UDA was giving out wheelbarrows, from the word go until that time when, shots were fired onto them because they had promised laptops and were not according that, and say all of a sudden they changed tone and say that, it's no longer about wheelbarrows, it's just a symbol. If it's about chungwa, chungwa was a symbol right from the word go, accorded by the likes of Kivuitu, and therefore you cannot equate the two. I wouldn't allow you to respond to that because the gentlemen as well are eagerly waiting.
Uhuru Kenyatta's laptops. Yeah, the laptops were promised by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
They speak about, you see, the DP is part of the presidency. Is he not the part of the presidency as it stands right now? Yes, let's allow Agostino come in.
Brenda, I think however much Dr. Muluka wants to romanticize economic models, of course, one point that he makes clear is that we need to be looking at a computation of various ideas of various economic issues. If at all the things that the Kenyans raise here are important, we need to look at the various political manifestos talk about youth employment, which none of them is talking about. They just go and shout their voice. The other thing is supposed to be the economy. The other thing is supposed to be healthcare and social welfare issues. So I really would like, first of all, to ask Kenyans to look at the various political parties whose manifestos speak to those things, because that is where, that's where we really need to get it right. But the point that I really think we need to make is that all these things are institutional related. You cannot be telling us about economic models if at all the institutional structure is not correct. I think one of the things that we feel in Kenya and as a country is that we do not have a long-term view. There's no proper planning in the long term, and that is what political parties need to help us attain, for example. When the Jubilee administration was getting into power, they've had 10 years of a chance to plan for the country. There's no thought process, there's no flow. Where, for example, a country like China does very well for us, or does better, is the Communist Party of China has a long-term view. They know what they want to achieve in 20 years, in 30 years. So that successive administrations have a plan, have a manifesto with which they work. In Kenya, it's guesswork. I'll just give you a clear example. Look at Nairobi, the express highway. Governor Kidero and Governor Sonko planted flowers. In less than a year, having put our money on the expressway, someone came and removed the flowers. And that was money. If there was a proper plan, if there was a proper economic plan in terms of how the country should have been done, no one should have been planting flowers, because we would have known there's going to be an express highway in the next few days, so that our proper money should then have been done. So we really need to have institutional structures in place that will guide how we move our economic pathway. If at all someone carried off from what President Kibaki left, Kenyans need to appreciate that to the extent that we do not have institutionalized political parties where every year, this year we're doing Azimio, the next year we're doing UDA, we will not go far as a country, because every administration that comes in with guesswork, So the guesswork is either things that are really, really, to the extent that what some politicians want to satisfy, you do business to satisfy your own gains. SGR, the expressway. There are things that do not speak to what the Kenyans desire, what the Kenyans want. It simply speaks to what the politicians want to make quick money. So we cannot be discussing economic models, we cannot be discussing ideas and manifestos if our institutional infrastructure is not correct. The second thing, if we had structures that emphasize the fact that Kenyans have the protection of private property, that your private property is going to be protected. Look at how much destruction we've had. Look at how much, so that innovation is stifled because of the lack of an institutional infrastructure. So yes, it is possible to have all these economic models, but we really must ensure that our institutional infrastructure of the judiciary, the legislature, if you have a parliament that's supposed to be overseeing, look, where did we lose all the COVID-19 funds? Where did we lose all these other monies that we've lost as a country? It's because there is no institutional infrastructure that questions where all this goes. So it is not important to have all these very beautiful ideas if our institutional infrastructure is not correct. And that is what really will make Kenya different from South Korea. And that is how we'll, for example, for a long time still be struggling with wheelbarrows and oranges and jogos, like Barack says, if at all our institutions are extractive.
All right. Yes, Wakili.
Yep. Linda, I strongly believe that symbols, economic models are just models. Symbols are just symbols. It's a wheelbarrow, It's an orange, those are just symbols. And in fact, what helps a country to develop is not even the model. I don't think so. I think what helps a country to develop is the leadership and the work ethic of those people. It's not the model. That, because if you look at Biden's government in America, they are now improving, they're changing the economic model of bottom-up policy so that they can suit the interest of the Americans. So it is the leadership, it's not the model. Now, if you look at countries like Malaysia, South Korea, even China, even that city-state, the city-state next to Malaysia, Singapore. Look at countries like Singapore. These countries, commonly known as the Asian tigers, did not develop, did not reach where they have reached because of the models. They have reached there because of the work ethic of the people and the clear leadership provided by the leader. That's how they reached what they have reached. Now, if it was just models, Singapore, I'm told in 1963, the model that Singapore used to build itself into a city-state came from Nairobi. The plan in Singapore is what was supposed to be Nairobi, but see where Nairobi is, see where Singapore is. Again, they say in 1963, Kenya was in a position to give a loan, to give aid to South Korea. See where South Korea is, see where Nairobi is. Now, even in Korea still, compare South Korea and North Korea, North Korea. So it's not the models that matter. I think what matters really, it is the leader. The leader must provide clear leadership. And then the people must also have a good work ethic. We Kenyans are so interested in free things, freebies, that corruption has become a lifestyle. Nobody cares if I go home today with a new Mercedes and if he ate. Nobody cares how I got that. Instead, I got praised. Hey, I'm another Mupia. So today, we will change our attitude in Kenya. And the day our leaders will take the interest of Kenyans at heart, as Muruka said, a time reaches when Kenya Kwanza. Kenya comes first. Kenya comes first. I'm not saying Kenya Kwanza. Say, the country comes first. The day we will put our country first, not our stomach, not our personal interests, is the day we will change. And it's not the model. It is the leader. It takes one leader. It took George Washington to create America. It took, is it Wang Xi to create Malaysia. It took this guy, the Chinese, Lee Kuan Yew, yes, to create South Korea. We need our Lee Kuan Yew in Kenya. And I'm hoping that Lee Kuan Yew will come soon, and I'm really hoping in come this year, August, our Lee Kuan Yew will be Raila Amolo Odinga.
All right, fair enough. And is it not then in the best interest of President Uhuru Kenyatta to understand in totality and to be actively involved in getting to know who takes up the mantle from him, whether it will be this one moment for Kenya to experience change? And you know, that then is possible if he leaves the presidency to the right person. And so why does it then send a lot of jitters to many when the president is, you know, evidently and clearly and outrightly involving himself in the politics of 2022? Let's discuss that after this break. gloves off, and we are now on the ground to politic. After all, he is a politician in as much as the Constitution argues that he should be exiting the stage. Doesn't mean that he then exits in totality. He can be offering advisory roles, he can be active on other quarters, but we await to see just how different then he turns or he plans to exit the stage. Barack Muluka is still with me this morning, Agostino Neto, as well as Joash Mangi. Barack.
Yes,
your position on the hard stance that the president is taking, well, probably firing shots at the DP and saying that, you know, it's time for politics and therefore you people are going to see us.
You know, President Harry Truman was never happy with his deputy, Dwight Eisenhower, who went on to become the next president after World War II. But he did not entangle himself in the kind of imbroglio that we are seeing in the country. What we are seeing today cannot even be called a debate. It's not even a campaign. It's a no-holds-barred imbroglio, a theater of an orgy of mutual insolence that people have forgotten about the sobriety of debate. They are bringing in their emotions. They are speaking with their entire torso. You are seeing their bodies waving, and you are seeing them issuing innuendo and thinly veiled threats, saying things like, wakituletea diambo, tutawapatia diambo. Wakituletea noma, tutawapatia noma. And I hear in all this the echoes of 2007. We have got now an adult generation that does not remember what was there in 2007. Memory is a store of experience, and there are people who did not have that experience. They are quite happy to flow along with it. The president, as a symbol of national unity, should at this point be concerned with ensuring that he steers the ship of state to safe harbors. The safe harbors where the fundamentals of the institutions are sound, that the processes are sound. When I hear somebody in the proximity of the president proclaiming on public rostrums that you say that we lied to you in 2013, 2017, and there is an element of truth in that, and we can actually do it again. And I see the president saying, this is the time for us to remove the gloves, we are coming now for you. And then I hear somebody else telling the president, bring it on, we are going to pour the beans. You are going to spill, but we are going to pour the beans. We know you, we have worked with you, we know what you have done. That is not where you want the country to go. His Excellency, the President, must at this point step back a little bit and say that the best I want to do is to steer the ship of state into safe harbors. And to that extent, then it should not matter, certainly to me, whether and the other citizens and to the President, whether it is going to be Raila Amolo Odinga who wins, or William Ruto, or somebody else, provided that we are remaining faithful to our institutions, to the rule of law, and that the country's stability is not compromised. If the one person, the one office that is supposed to be the symbol of national unity says we are getting into this arena and we are going to show you what we are, and you are telling people you are not our equal, we are going to pulverize you, then I think the nation sits in a very dangerous place, and we should not play footsie with this kind of imbroglio. The whole conversation is degenerating into a pre-2007, 2008 situation.
Fair.
We must raise the the red flag.
Well, God forbid. Neto,
Linda.
is it the utterances of the president, or is it the fact that he's being involved? Is it not his democratic right as well to do that? And we have seen presidents, exiting, incumbents exiting the stage, and as well actively being involved on matters politics. Why is it that this one would be then read differently?
Linda, at the beginning of the show, these two gentlemen invited me to visit their counties, Kisii and Kakamega.
Right.
I think it's a time we needed to invite the Kenyan politicians to look at how democracies elsewhere work. Look at Tanzania, look at South Africa. It is also possible, for example, for an incumbent president to hand over power to his preferred successor, or there needs to be a mechanism in place where the person you want to become president then takes over from you. And successfully, if you watch, there's a beautiful picture of the Tanzanian presidents in the House of Parliament, when you can see all the 4 previous presidents of Tanzania sitting together in a photograph in the House of Parliament. Really speaks so much to African democracy, that it is possible in Africa. It is not that Africans cannot get some of these things right. It's just that we need to institutionalize our politics. And if you look at South Africa as well, that there are moments when the best leader of that particular political party, the ANC, has always risen to cause. President Uhuru Kenyatta has a chance to, is a voter, and he's entitled to support whosoever he wants to support. I think the problem most Kenyans have with him is the institutional infrastructure within which he's doing that. You have 2 manifestos that do not speak to each other. This is part of the greatest conversations we really need to be having. Jubilee and ODM, whatever they had in common, it is going to be very difficult to enmash the thoughts, the ideas. We watched Prime Minister Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta go for each other's throats, cutting across, both in terms of national cohesion issues, both in terms of corruption, good governance. So I think the two really need to enmesh their thoughts and ideas in terms of the long-term view of Kenya. Whether President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President have problems, that is okay, granted. In a democracy, that should happen. But I really think that for the best and for the purposes of Kenya, we really need to have all these seamless flow of ideas. It should not be about people. It should not be about families. It should be about the institution of Kenya. It should be about the country. But something that Barack speaks to, which I really need to add my voice to, is that the 2022 election is a transitional election. I know transitional elections in Kenya have shown us that things can go south, and we should not start banding words, should not be threatening each other as a country, because at the end of the day we still need a strong one whole country, so that the president is entitled to support Raila Odinga, and he should support Raila Odinga if that is his choice. But I really think that we need to be careful that we have a country after the August election, and how best do we deal with the emotions of the country? That should not, for example, stop us from electing Raila Odinga if it's Kenya's best choice. But that's that. After that, we still need to move forward as a country. But lastly, I really think that the politicians really need to be careful about what we say. It is not in our best interest to incite each other. It's not in our best interest to show our political bad manners. You stole the election in 2013 and 2017. How do you have, you should keep your bad manners to yourself. You cannot come and tell us you stole the election in 2013, you stole the election in 2017, and you know how to steal the election for the next person. What are we doing? So then what is the place of the rule of law? What is the place of the Constitution of Kenya? If at all you can tell us you stole, you know how to steal, we really need to respect each other.
Let's hold that one of Sabina for a moment. And evidently ODM has come out guns blazing in support of what it is that she, not really in support of what she said, but in defense of her. But that aside, do you suppose, Mangi, it would have been different if President Uhuru Kenyatta played to the tune of Kumi Yako, Kumi Yangu? Would these people be feeling as though the president is a little bit being, involved in matters politics at a length that he should not? Would they argue that maybe this would be a trigger to more animosity that we've witnessed before?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that now it is the people on the Tangatanga side who are saying that the president is being partisan by supporting Raila Odinga. But if the president also was enforcing the Kumi Yang na Kumi Yako to Raila, the ODM side will also be saying that you are done with your part, finish your turn and go. Yeah. Let us deal with the remaining. So it's a catch-22. But Linda, what I believe is that the president really has a right to choose whoever he wants to vote for. He has one vote. number one. So when it goes into that booth, it's him to decide who's voting. But he also has a constituents. So it's up to him to decide where can he direct that constituents to. But you know, in any leadership structure, in any corporations, in institutions, one of the key hallmarks of a good leader is to have a good succession plan. A leader who does not have a good succession plan, the institution will fail after him. How an institution will survive after your exit depends on what kind of succession plans you put in place.
Right.
What kind of structures did you respect and did you maintain them? So for me, the president has a right to support Raila Amolo Odinga. The president has a right to campaign for Raila Amolo Odinga on one side. On the other side, the president must realize that he is the father of this nation. When we were studying Law 101, I'm a lawyer by profession, and one of the things when you do constitutionalism, you are told that the president is the personification of the state. And if you listen to Professor Ojuang's theory of extra-juridical powers, when a president says something, issues a statement, even if there's no law to enforce that statement, it acquires some sense of legality. The president has said, the president has said. And that is why it's advisable in developed nations that the president is properly coached on what to say. Because once the president said something, even if it lacks the force of law, it is taken very seriously. It's quasi-legal. So the president must be very careful what he says, because the ordinary mwananchi believes that this is my father speaking. You know, when you're a young child, your father says this is wrong, you believe him. So the ordinary mwananchi expects only right decisions, right statements from the presidency. The president must be presidential, and they must provide leadership. And that is exactly where the challenge is. How presidential should a president be? What kind of leadership should he provide?
You've listened to the president in the recent past. Do you suppose his utterances would somehow dictate that he probably is not according the people the kind or the right style of leadership or the right style of utterances that would be expected by the sons and daughters?
You know, it is Jonjo. It is in Jonjo, I think in 1977, who criminalized the imagination. You should not imagine the death of a president. So, you know, you are asking me a very difficult question, because you are asking me to...
to either. It could have been easy for you to do that if you were on the other side of Kenya Kwanza, I can almost guarantee you. But, you know, now that you're in Azimio and he's endorsing your preferred presidential candidate, then you would want to look...
So you understand you're putting in a very good position.
All right.
But you know, the right answer is that the president needs to be presidential. The president needs to realize that Kenya is bigger than any one of us, and the president must provide leadership. And they must also have a clear succession plan.
Yes, and on that very note, Barack, as he seeks to have a clear succession plan with the interests that the president would have, with the aspect of age, the likes that Twoli would speak of, that is still too young to exit the stage, with the aspect of his legacy, it is in his best interest to make sure that at least he leaves the right person who would understand and who would continue with that work that he would consider to be good. In his own wisdom, he decides to overlook the person he's worked with. You know, for about 10 years, of course, they got into power in 2013. They came on board into, in 2017 again. Why would you suppose the president, in his own wisdom, would overlook that, in as much as it's a game of politics? And why would you not want to listen to that one thing that the president could be, you know, having against the DP? It could be justified.
President, like the two colleagues have said, Mheshimiwa Neto and DG Mangi, and the president himself and other people have said, he has every right to a choice, including choice of a successor. And if in his wide-ranging wisdom and assessment that correct successor is on the other side, of the political divide, he has every reason to embrace that person and to tell the country that this is the person that I think you should support. But as he goes about that, he must never forget that he is the head of state. He is the one person who holds the most important office that rallies the whole nation together. And that, as DG Mangi says, every word that leaves his mouth is very important. And it's not just every word that leaves his mouth, but it's the overall manner, the overall style. I think the concern here is a lot more about the comportment, the overall style. If an elder were to behave the way, for example, I saw TV footage on Friday in State House, if you were to behave like that here in Emmanuel, we would ask you, what have you eaten today before coming to address us? And we would tell you symbolically that please choose what you eat carefully before you come to address us. It may not mean that you have eaten something, but it's an indication that you are not managing yourself as is expected of your station in life. There must always be some decorum, some dignity. You must package yourself in a manner that demonstrates that you recognize you hold a certain office. It's a very important office. President Julius Nyerere used to say, Ikulu ni mahali patakatifu, that there is a certain kind of sanctity to the institution of state house, of statehood, which is encapsulated in the presidency. And therefore, when you talk about the presidency, I'm afraid we must stretch that out and look at the presidency in its totality. There is a sense in which the deputy president also goes overboard. He must also remember that he's part of that symbolism of national unity. He must also choose his words, his occasion very carefully. But it does appear that they have agreed that that is how they want to go about it. And we are telling them, as the people in that institution of presidency, that you are taking the country to the wrong place. Gentlemen, you are taking the country to the wrong place. Manage your emotions, manage your anger. It is all right to be angry, but you cannot be angry the same way an ordinary person is allowed to be angry. That as we are all angry, there must be somebody who can contain us and tell us that we cannot go overboard. It should not be in my role as a journalist to be the one telling the president that you are going overboard. It's the president who should be telling me, hey, Barack, your pen is getting to be a bit too angry. You cannot go that direction, because he has taken the oath of office to hold the country together. So I have no issues with anyone supporting anybody else. If it is Raila Odinga, so be it. If it's William Ruto, so be it. And you asked a very important question as I conclude, whether the vibes would be any different. I think the vibes would be the same if the president was supporting William Ruto and he was behaving the same way as he is. You will be seeing the people in ODM, in Azimio la Umoja, saying the same things that the other people in Kenya Kwanza are saying.
Okay.
It does not matter, Linda, whether he does it for Azimio la Umoja or he does it for Kenya Kwanza. Wrong things are wrong, eternally wrong, regardless of who they are done for.
How best can this be done?
Thanks, Linda. Linda, just something that we need to consider is the structure and the context in which Azimio la Umoja is being couched or cushioned. You know, I mean, it's a good idea in terms of, you know, bring Kenyans together so that it's peaceful. But we must appreciate that Kenya is not peaceful in any re-election year because of structural inequalities. those structural inequalities is what the presidency and Prime Minister Raila Odinga need to show us how they are planning to deal with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just easy that, you know, you bundle Luos and Kikuyus together because they've been struggling for a long time. Now it will be if you brought Raila and Uhuru together, those Kenyan problems are going to be sorted out.
They'll tell you they tried the BBI.
That is not correct. I mean, structural inequalities in Kenya, I mean, I'll just give you a classical example. Look at Lamu. The Bajunis of Lamu do not have title deeds to their land, whereas people who are not immigrants of Lamu have titles to their land. The people in Kwale are fighting over land title deeds. Those structural inequalities, it does not matter who becomes president. They really want to have a title to their land. They really want to have, I mean, the young people who do not have ID cards, people from Garissa, they want to be Kenya. They want to feel Kenyanized. You know, so to the extent that you show them how this presidency, for example, is going to help deal with those structural inequalities, I think then we're missing the point. The Kalenjins and the Luos, the Kisis and the Kalenjins do not just fight for fighting purposes. They fight because of resources. They fight because of inequalities. So show us how this marriage or this assemblage of issues is going to deal with the structural inequalities of Kenya. That is number one. To the extent that, you know, any alliance, whether it was Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, is going to be a perpetuation of political patronage, Kenyans will have a problem. And I really think that we really need to give Kenya something that does not perpetuate political patronage. Our problems, which is youth unemployment, lack of healthcare issues, really need to be dealt with in a manner that is considerable to respond to the Kenyan problems that we have, as opposed to really having issues. And lastly, you know, whether the president was supporting his deputy president, that would have been a very good conversation, because then, you know, for me, I am happy because I didn't vote for Uhuru, I did not vote for William Ruto. So to the extent that Jubilee, for example, in his 4-pillar manifesto was not functioning, that was good for, that was good, you know, because first it is an ambitious project, and it is an ambitious project that was not properly couched through. So to the extent that, you know, the president would have been supporting William Ruto, it would have been an easy campaign. Now the problem with Uhuru supporting Raila is that, you know, he gives Raila the dirt of incumbency. Problems that really Raila Odinga should not have been party to. Now Raila is going to inherit some of it, because then Raila becomes an institutional candidate, and most institutions, Africans, think that the government and the state is a perpetuator of all the inequalities, all the violence. So we really need, even as Prime Minister Raila Odinga gets support of President Uhuru Kenyatta, how he rebrands himself so that it does not look like he carries the institutional scam that comes with it.
All right, and that's fair enough. I think as we shelve this one and almost getting to a close, they mentioned something to do with the utterances of Sabina Chege. Well, we have seen the ODM Secretary General coming in defense of that and says that, you know what, it was not proper for IEBC or the electoral body under the electoral code conduct to summon Muranga Member of Parliament Sabina Chege, of course, the women representative, over these utterances that we speak of. Yes, IEBC summoned them, or summoned Sabina Chege the other day as pertaining to, you know, her utterances regarding the 2017 presidential election and up until date. Would IEBC have, you know, the confidence to do this, and above everything, you know, speak of the fact that are they justified as well to summon Sabina Chege? And as ODM would argue, have you opened the servers? You have not. So why would you think you have the moral authority to act the cops and, you know, or to act the cop and get Sabina, you know, summoned based on this?
This one, Linda, I'll answer with my tongue in cheek. Because in all fairness, what Sabina said was wrong.
Okay.
I mean, it takes away the legitimacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And that was very unfortunate to admit, or to purport to admit, that something improper was done and the presidency was wrong. And it is this kind of utterances that make other people, that's what I want to say with a tongue in cheek, that make other people wonder if some of these people are genuinely supporting Papa. Because, I mean, how do you say something like that? Because that really portrays Papa in a very bad way. In a very bad way, that he is counting on being redeemed. So some people make mistakes. And I think Sabina made a mistake. And it does not matter how much defense he gets from anybody, but that was wrong. And I think IBC is right in summoning her, because if we allow that kind of talks, we're preparing for 2007, unfortunately. But you know, it's in 1992, in one of the televised discussions, presidential discussions in America, it's Bill Clinton in answering one of the questions, what is the biggest challenge in America, he said, it is the economy, stupid. That's what he said. It is the economy, stupid. Now, if you ask me today, the biggest challenge in Kenya, as we speak today, it is leadership, stupid.
Okay. But I'll pick it up.
So,
yeah.
when we have a proper leadership and the proper structures, we have no place for such kind of sentiments. We have no place for such kind of utterances. We should never allow ourselves to go that direction.
All right.
Because we know, those of us who were there in 2007, we know what happened. Nobody wants to go there.
How much of an undoing, Barack, as we close, would, Azimio or ODM defending or coming in defense of Sabina be for them, especially at this point where we are eagerly waiting? And we all understand that even for litigations, FODA is always prepared as early as now. And we all understand that the courts will always go for facts as opposed to FODA that is created. But don't you think somehow this would be an undoing?
It's not even question of what the courts will say, whether it will come before the courts or not. It is a question of moral and ethical probity. It is a question of leadership integrity in line with Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya. This is the kind of pronouncement which in a civilized environment it should be leading to Sabina Chege's own colleagues, pressurizing her to apologize, even to step down from whatever public office she holds. But when you go out to embrace this, because Sabina Chege spoke in broad daylight. She did not whisper in some secret chambers. She spoke in broad daylight. And she said that there is a sense in which you people have sometimes said that we cheated you in the elections, that we stole. And there's an element of truth in that. And if it was done, it can be done again. We know how to do it. You don't say such a thing. And a Democrat who holds the institutions of this country in sanctity comes out and tries to defend and to justify that. If you try to defend such things that are done in broad daylight, how much more do you invite us to question the things that you say in secrecy? Perhaps these are conversations that are happening elsewhere and they are leaking into public space. And it behooves the Secretary General Edwin Sifuna and other Democrats within that environment to distance themselves very significantly from that kind of sentiment. Don't attempt to justify it. It erodes public confidence in the electoral system. It creates apathy. But even worse, it starts preparing the nation for belligerence. We don't need that.
All right, let's take a short break.
Before you say something,
allow us to take a short break because it's a commercial one and then we come back to you.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, just on.
In studio, co-party leader of United Green Movement, that is Honorable Agostino Neto, Honorable Joash Mangi, the Deputy Governor of Kisii County, as well as Communication Advisor, Dr. Barak Muluka. And yes, Wakili, to you, I had distracted the line of thought.
What I wanted to, so that we can go back to, I don't want to take his time, you know, this statement by Sabina Chege, among other leaders, is what makes those of us who genuinely support Raila Amolo Odinga to wonder if their support is genuine. Look, I want to give you another example where somebody says, I've been hearing all of them, the likes of Kanin Kega, and they're like saying, in broad daylight, on TV, to multitudes of people, that you know we never used to vote for you, Raila Amolo Odinga, in broad daylight. But now we're going to. You start with the negative. The man from Magnolia will tell you if you want to communicate effectively, you don't start with the negative.
That's true.
You don't start with negative. Yeah. What's difficult in them saying, hey, Raila Amolo Odinga is the right man to be president in 2022? Period. And leave it at that. Why are they reminding people that we used to demonize you, we never used to vote for you, we have never voted for you, I, Kanin Kega, have never voted for you, I, Commander, I have never voted for you. So they're telling everybody, they're telling the ordinary Mwananchi that this man has always been bad. We have now voted him. Okay. But now, go and vote for him. That is absolutely wrong.
Okay.
They should stop that language and begin campaigning for Raila Amolo Odinga, that this man has struggled for Kenya, this man will transform Kenya.
Do you people address some of these things? And probably we need to ask you now that you're foot soldiers of the Right Honourable.
I think lawyer Deputy Governor Mangi is not being fair to my friends in Central Kenya. I think as a lawyer he knows that sometimes you accept and verify in terms of defense. You know, so accept they never voted for him, but now you're going to vote for him. So I really think that
don't remind people.
But I really think
they are actually campaigning.
Yeah.
I really think that we should not give Sabina's sentiments so much attention. I mean, Sabina does not sit in the echelons of power. You know, there is deep state, and then there's state, and then there are those hecklers around.
And then there's the IBC itself.
Then there's hecklers around the state.
Okay.
No, I really think that Sabina spent a lot of weeks in Lunyans. I know it's Valentine's week, so there's a lot of love in her head. So her sentiments should not be really thought so seriously. Because, I mean, I really think that Kenyans want a verifiable and credible election. And you know, IBC, with their faults, with their many things, are trying to put in a credible election. And to the extent that there could be mistakes, those kind of utterances should, if at all they were coming from someone more senior, would have worried me. But from someone like Sabina Chege and Kanini, those are my friends who are in parliament together. Then there's a deep state. We know who sits around the deep state. So really, Kenyans should not pay a lot of attention. And for DM to go and defend that kind of thing, it simply means that they could be looking very desperate in terms of institutional support. But we want a free and a fair election in 2022. If Raila is going to win, let him win fair and square. And he's won before, you know. So there is nothing, I mean, I don't really think there's something Raila Odinga needs to win the presidential election. He has won before, and there's won 2 or 3 of them before. And it should be very easy for him to win. So he does not really need anything else. All we require is that an election should be free, fair, credible, and verifiable. If that happens, I think Raila should be able to win.
Are you just confirming what Sabina said, that indeed the elections were stolen at some point? Because if Raila has won 2-3 times, according to you...
The courts have nullified the previous... I mean, even in 2013, my friend, Chief Justice, should have nullified that election. It's just that he played around and gave the very best. The fact that, you know, Honorable Kevitu has said he didn't know who won the election. And then, you know, so it simply shows that Raila has been winning these elections. So he needs no support to win them.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of IBC, Barak, we're coming to a close. IBC rejects Huduma number. In a letter to members of parliament, the electoral agency chairman Wafula Chebukati says that the suggestion to incorporate controversial registration number into polls management comes too late, as it would require lengthy revision of processes and registers. As we take a look at this, I mean, why is it that it appears like we're so much so accustomed to, you know, looking at laws at almost the last minute in terms of, you know, what do we change, what do we address, knowing very well that we've had years of, you know, time to have done that?
We are reminded of President Obama's address to the African Union when he was on his last lap in office, and he did that a tour of duty in Africa. In Addis Ababa, he was saying things to the effect that you must respect the rule of law, you must respect the tenure of office, you must be willing to vacate the space, and the law is the law. Sometimes when you look at the goings on in the country around the institution of elections and the laws around them, and remembering even things like as we were about to go to the repeat presidential poll in October 2017, that Parliament sat and dragged through an amendment of the Elections Act just to suit what was being anticipated. And we have seen another amendment of that act recently. There have been further suggestions of some further amendments. You start believing that there must be people who are very keen to compromise the elections so that a certain outcome is guaranteed. I don't agree at all with my good friend, the Honorable Agostino Neto, who incidentally I think is a very good political leader.
Neto.
Kind of person.
The heavens are conspiring in favor of you.
In favor
It was
of
almost
you,
like
yes.
it appeared it was an attack, you know, headed your direction.
I know what Barack needs to wants to respond to is the fact that I said we should not take Sabina Chege seriously, and I still stand by that, because really those who design power, and I've been closer to the presidency in the 2013 election, 2017 election. Those who do these kind of machinations do not pronounce them. In fact, they know who to accept into the circles of power, because then you swear oath of secrecy. The things that Mangi does in his cabinet, and they'll tell you the things you don't just allow anyone into that space as a cabinet, because you've sworn these things that we do are in private and in secret, so they cannot be such hecklers being allowed to that space.
But sometimes you send your foot soldiers to speak of this when you feel like a message needs to be passed.
No, President Moi is the one who had done that very well, and I don't think President Kibaki or President Uhuru did not perfect those arts. President Moi would have Mulu Mutisia and Kamodo test the nerve, test the pulse of the country. I think these two presidents have not done very well. So, but let me move to, let's not discuss Sabina. She's not yet national enough to be discussed.
Wow.
Let's discuss the real issues in terms of
the change of
the change of the law in terms of this Huduma number. Barack was speaking very well. This is what impunity looks like. Because the High Court has made a decision. The High Court has said that Huduma number is unconstitutional and all those things. So for you to still push it on our faces, those of us, and Mangi will tell you, those of us who are lawyers and you draft petitions or you draft affidavits, you sit back and watch what is it that you've done. Buluka, like a writer, you want to sit down and say, I wrote a good piece of article. Those of us in charge of the state, the presidency, the people who go after, you want to sit down and say, this is the country that I bequeathed to my people. You want to sit down, look at Julius Nyerere, look at President Obama. You want to sit down and say, I handed over a Kenya which is peaceful, which is, unified. You don't keep on pushing the dirty stuff onto our faces, because there are two amendments right now with regard to the election. 180 days. There's the Election Amendment Act, which talks about the electronic voter transmission and identification, and now Huduma number. How in the name of God do you want IBC that is already too scared of running this election? IBC is too scared because they're claiming they're broke, they don't have the infrastructure. You want to complicate their life further by making sure that the laws are too complicated. Look, I think on this one I am with IBC. To design the electoral infrastructure in this manner of the Huduma number right now will complicate everything else. But anyway, this Huduma number, what is it? Because you see, if it's supposed to have been escalated earlier on, if at all it should have been put in place earlier on. We had 2017 to 2022 to put a Huduma number in place and tell us this is what we're going to use for the next election. I think all Kenyans should have really then come to the front and accepted it. But right now, with the last dying number, all the voting Kenyans, I'm sure, do not have a Huduma number. Because, you know, when the court decided against Huduma number, not many people went for this particular Huduma number. So are you telling us that those of us who do not have Huduma number are not going to vote? And what does that then do to Article 38 in terms of our civic and political rights? That now, because of this thing you're calling Huduma number, which you put in place a few days now, I cannot vote. I really think this is what now we should avoid. Let us have a free, fair, verifiable election. If it's about IDs, let's use IDs. If it's about using passports, let's use the passports. If it's about using Huduma number plus all these other things, I think let us make this election free and fair so that at least we have a peaceful transitional election.
DG, your submissions on that?
You know, I on this one, I think I'm 100% with my colleague Neto. Because, you know, the Huduma number, I feel that it has been misunderstood. The Huduma number is the equivalent of the Social Security number in America. You see, people in Kenya keep on saying that why do we need an Huduma number when we have our IDs, when we have our driver's licenses? That is not correct. If I may speak about the system I'm used to in America, is that you have a driver's card. The driver's card only shows that you have a license, your license to drive.
Right.
You don't have to be American to drive in America. The ID card only identifies you as a person. You don't have to be an American to have an ID card. Insurance cards, all of this, even photos card. But the Social Security number, when you get a Social Security number in America, it means that you are in America, either you were born in America or you are there legitimately. And once you type the Social Security number into a computer, it will identify who you are.
Right.
It will tell you this is Linda, her ID number is this, insurance card is this, her photos card is this. It's a composite of all your identities. Now, that is what we were trying to do in Kenya. They were trying to do in Kenya by introducing an Huduma number that will legitimately identify you and show, if I type the Huduma number in the computer, this is Linda and this is who she is. So there was nothing wrong with the Huduma number. But the way it was introduced, you see, that's the problem in Kenya. People, you see, those who think about the idea are not the ones who are allowed to implement. So the implementers come and do an haphazard job, they break the law, and then you go to court. The court says, but this, for you to do this, you need to do ABCD. It's like I've said before and I'll say it again. I believe PBI was a good thing. There are a few things PBI could have done, very good things. But then the person, the principal advisor to the president, did not advise him that under Section 257 of the Constitution, that section is preserved for Wanjiku. And that's why PBI, failed. I don't know, we're waiting for the outcome from the Supreme Court. But you can see obvious mistakes. So, here I want to agree with my colleague that IPC is absolutely right in saying that we cannot use Huduma number.
Well, fair enough.
In any case, there's a stay order from court. So why would anybody want to disobey court orders blatantly?
All right. Well, it's been looked at as an administration that is notorious at doing that. Well, that's interesting. Barak, now that you're back, I guess I'll give you 30 minutes to conclude on your submissions. And my fire short, 30 seconds. Did I say minutes? 30 seconds to conclude on your submissions.
I was very happy about the 30 minutes.
Short-lived.
We don't even have the Huduma numbers. I don't have a Huduma number. I don't know of anyone who has a Huduma number. Perhaps they'll have them. These are things which should be completely set aside. We have already begun the electoral process. The registers should be in the process of being completed. They should be being prepared for inspection. IBC should be going out to conduct civic voter education, going out to begin engaging in procurement, And I think any other things being introduced at this moment are diversionary. They are going to slow them down. And as I say farewell for this morning, just wish the two gentlemen very well because they are candidates. Unfortunately, I cannot vote for them, but they represent the kind of leadership that this country needs, with the exception that Agostino Neto should pay attention to small telltale signs. When you see someone like Sabina Chege, don't say she's a small person. When you want to tell the local night runner that this is the night runner, you send the children. The children are the ones, you say it where the children are, and the children go and say, look at this night runner. So things which are possibly being said elsewhere, we can't take them lightly. Anything that threatens the sanctity of the electoral process must be taken with the seriousness it deserves.
Thank you.
And I think there are not so many night runners in Diwa as there are in his village. So
the argument would not.
So I learned how to take this seriously. But I really think, just lastly, Linda, so that I think Kenyans are looking forward to a peaceful and transitional election. And like Governor Mangi says, there's nothing wrong with the Huduma number. It is just that the timing of this particular Huduma number would not be good for purposes of planning the next election. And you know, Dr. Muluka says very well, where we are with regard to the election calendar, it is too late in the day to introduce any more mechanisms. You know, it's supposed to be verifying the register, it's supposed to be doing many things. IBC, first of all, doesn't even have money to conduct its processes. So giving them another chance would be to throw a challenge in this thing. Let us do whatever it takes to have a peaceful and transitional election in 2022.
Okay. One word?
All right, 30 seconds.
Yes, 30 seconds only. I just wanted to mention something about the patriarchal nature of Kenyan politics. Earlier on, you mentioned that Kisses are very patriarchal. But it's not only Kisses, it's Kenyans generally. The reason why I want to bring this back is because somehow in my sojourners in the world, I seem to feel that women, when they occupy leadership positions, they provide sober leadership. In fact, I believe, I don't know, I don't know, but I think women seem to provide sober leadership. They're not as aggressive, they're not even as corrupt as men. So in Kenya, probably it's time we began being more accommodative to women and making it possible for them to be elected. In Kisii, I will tell you, we are beginning to be accommodative. We have, as I said earlier, we have the likes of Chane Dongera going for governorship. We have the likes of Gloria giving a man from Bobasi a run for their money. We have the likes of Teresa from Bonjali, who actually almost won. I think we believe he won. She believes she won. And until they was manipulated. So,
for your party.
Oh, sorry. I would do that.
Let's close it with that. You know, so I'm not supposed to hold any side, but on this one, I think I agree with you, Mahesh. Let's close that.
So as Kenyans, let us create a conducive environment to enable women occupy positions of leadership.